Britany, how are you?
I am great.
God bless it. I'm so glad you're great. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate you making the time. I know you split time between offices and stuff, so you snuck it in. God bless it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So I saw a thing, I can't remember where I saw it, that the wheat growers had secured a deal with Taiwan, if you want to call that a place, to export something like between $1 and $2 billion worth of wheat. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. So it is 132 million bushel over 4 years. So to give you some context, Idaho wheat farmers produce on average 100 million bushel per year.
Whoa. Yeah. So they're taking like over a quarter of it then or something.
Yeah, 132 million bushel over 4 years.
So they roughly are going to account for 30% of your gross production or on a 4-year time frame each year. Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Yeah. It will equal about $1.3 billion worth of wheat.
Okay, so back up here. How did this deal come about? Does this put greater pressure on your other demands for export? Like, did you just have this extra 30% sitting around that was going to just future? Like, where was the 30% going originally? And like, what does this do for the Idaho wheat farmer?
We have had a very long, like 50-year plus relationship with Taiwan. The Idaho State Department of Agriculture has a full-time employee in Taiwan. They're one of the only states that has overseas employees. So we have a really good relationship with Taiwan. They are also very loyal to Idaho wheat for several reasons. Partly because of that relationship that already exists. Partly also because soft white wheat so there are 6 classes of wheat. So like durum is a class, hard red winter is a class, soft white. We grow soft white almost exclusively in the Pacific Northwest. So Idaho, Washington, Oregon, the only place that you can grow it. There's a little bit in Montana, but like 95% of it is grown in the Pacific Northwest.
And is that just for the United States, or is that pretty much like the world? Like this is the best environment to grow this type of
It's
grain?
The only place in the world.
Okay, so we essentially have control over that product in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Wow.
And Taiwan and other Asian markets really like it because it has a low protein content. So it works really well for their like fluffy chiffon cakes or sponge cakes. And it's a very bright white color. So they like that for Asian noodles. So their pastries, their noodles, different things that they have as a regular part of their diet. They actually eat more wheat than rice in Taiwan and in most of Asia.
Has that always been the case, or
No.
is that? Oh, okay.
No, it just as Western culture has kind of creeped. With that comes Western diets. So more wheat foods.
And McDonald's.
Yeah. And it takes fewer resources to cook wheat or to prepare wheat, right? Like
as opposed to something like rice.
Where you have to boil it. It takes more energy and more resources to do that. So,
gotcha.
They also have an aging population, and wheat is easier on the digestive system than rice in some cases. So it's just a multitude of reasons, but wheat has become very popular in Taiwan and other places in Asia.
That's wild times. I had no idea. So bottom line is their culinary preferences have essentially changed, making wheat, one of the preferred over rice, which obviously puts a lot of pressure on securing this. And considering considering the Northwest region being the one that essentially has control of this product, like does Idaho out of, I think you said Idaho, Oregon, Washington, does Idaho produce the most of it out of those 3 states?
No, Washington does.
Oh, okay.
But Idaho, there are a couple of other reasons that Taiwan is a big fan of soft white wheat. First of all, they can't grow wheat in Taiwan. They don't have the geography. They definitely don't have the climate to grow wheat. It's hot and humid, and that's the reason that Idaho grows wheat so well is because it's hot and dry. Right?
So if it's hot and humid, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that where you get a bunch of like fungus and diseases on the plant?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And they
you don't see a whole lot of wheat in Florida.
No.
Got it. Alligators, yes.
Yes.
Wheat, no.
Sugarcane, yes. Not wheat.
Gotcha.
But they also don't really have a great storage system because of the climate. So because of the amount of wheat that they consume in Taiwan, they depend on Idaho, first of all, for the quality. It's a very exceptional quality of wheat, but also the river system. They know exactly how long it will take to get wheat from the port of Lewiston to Taiwan. And so they use those ships on the ocean essentially as storage of wheat. So they order it, they purchase it in just the right increments that it arrives right when they need it in Taiwan. And other countries can't deliver in that way. The river system plays a huge role.
Okay, back up here. So if they ordered from, say, Oregon, they wouldn't have confidence that it would arrive at the appropriate time from Oregon.
No. From the United States, they have that confidence.
Okay.
It's if they were ordering a similar product from Canada or Australia,
okay,
that they can't depend on it arriving when they need it to arrive.
Gotcha. So it's more of just the United States shipping mechanism. However you get it to the ships that are going to cross the ocean, they know that it will arrive with a certain degree of confidence in a time frame. So whether it's Oregon or Washington or Idaho, they just know it's like, okay, well, if we order from these guys, they're going to get it here exactly when we want. So they more have like it's like when you deal with oil, right? Like you have essentially inline systems. So the second the tanker arrives, it's like, no, that crude oil is going directly into the refinery. So they have a refining mechanism or system there that depends on limited localized storage and more like inline. No, we're offloading and putting it into the system like immediately.
Yeah. In Taiwan, so individual mills or individual bakeries are not the ones purchasing the wheat either. So they have a government agency called Taiwan Flour Millers Association, and they purchase all of the wheat for all of the mills in Taiwan and then distribute it.
That's wild. So don't take this the wrong way. Is Taiwan like a communist country or is it okay, so they just have a government association that is. What is the benefit to them? Is it that they have, like, they can buy in bulk and then distribute at the lowest possible cost?
Yes.
So the mills and stuff, this is actually beneficial to them in that they're like, there's no way we could buy in the quantity they're buying from, and we wouldn't have the capacity to refine it in, at scale at that cost. So we can actually just buy the end product from them.
Yes.
That is wild. Why isn't that a function or a system that's utilized like here, or is it utilized here in limited ways?
No, not here. At least not with wheat, because you have Graincraft and they contract the wheat that they need for their customers, right? And then they mill it and ship it out to whoever. It's just they have a little bit of that in. Japan has a has an organization like that as well, not to the extent of Taiwan. It's just how their system is set up, and it makes sense. I mean, they have a lot of people to feed, and they have to be able to depend on quality and the deliverable.
Right, reliability.
Yeah.
What does this do for the growers in Idaho? Is this a abnormally large order or a large contract? It sounds like you guys have a relationship with them and have had for 50 years, I think you said. If that's the case, what does this mean for the growers in general here? Is it like, pretty much every 4 years they sign up for about this much, so it's really not that different? Or is it like, no, they had a request for more than usual?
No, it's closer to the first scenario, where they come every 2 to 3 to 4 years and sign a letter of intent. And it just reinforces the relationship that exists there between Idaho and Taiwan, between the United States wheat industry and Taiwan. And so since 1998, they have purchased about $8 billion of wheat from the United States through these letters of intent. And it's just at the root of marketing, global marketing or domestic marketing, at the root of marketing is relationships, right? So it's a way to reinforce that relationship, to say, we have confidence that our growers will produce the wheat that you need and get it to you. And you have confidence in the quality of that wheat.
Gotcha. So the bottom line is you have this confidence, Taiwan gets the confidence that you guys are going to deliver. But the other thing, I had Representative Sean Dygert on recently, but one of the first times I had him on a bit ago in the beginning of 2024, he articulated something that, of course, in retrospect, you're like, of course, in that one of the things that makes Idaho kind of unique is that, or a great place, is that we have an economy based in agriculture, right? Now that's, good and bad, right? For a number of reasons. But one of the reasons why it's really good is that you're kind of immune to economic strife to a degree, in that, you have a contract with Taiwan. That contract or intent is like, hey, we're going to buy this stuff over. So like all hell could break loose with the, United States economy, with, tech, with all kinds of different industries. But you have this gigantic engine in Idaho, which is, hey, we're going to be feeding not just Idaho or the United States, but we're feeding the world. And because that's a decentralized market, right? It's not just like, okay, we're very niche and we can only, if somebody doesn't really like, I don't know, this particular product or this particular thing, then it's all over. But because wheat is such a universal thing, and again, you're selling it internationally, we have confidence, they have confidence that you're going to deliver, but we also have confidence that our economic engine's that it's going to keep turning over.
Yes. Farming is very risky, right? I mean, you plant seeds in the fall and you hope for snow and you hope for rain and you hope for a good crop and no hail and no diseases, and sometimes you get that and sometimes you don't. But Idaho is pretty consistent weather-wise for wheat production. Half of what helps with that is that half of Idaho's wheat is grown, about half of it is grown under irrigation, and the rest of it is grown just, we call it dry land farming, which it basically means that you rely entirely upon Mother Nature. So however much rain falls out of the sky, like in northern Idaho, they get more rain than southern Idaho. So they grow all of their wheat in dry land conditions. In southern Idaho, there's a lot more irrigation. But because of that, even when there's some really terrible weather situation, like in 2021 there was a pretty severe drought, we can usually reduce the impact of that because we do have irrigation available.
Gotcha.
Whereas other states who are entirely dry land, like Kansas, for example, when they have a really bad drought or 3 years of drought, which they've just come off of, it's it's really detrimental to the entire state's wheat crop, but Idaho doesn't have as much of that risk.
Kansas is entirely dry land farming.
Yeah, it's very, very, very minimal irrigation. I think it's like less than 10%.
Oh, God. Okay. When that happens, what befalls the farmer? Right? Like if you're a Kansas wheat farmer over the last 3 years, what are you doing? Like, how do you kind of like survive that? Or is it literally like Grapes of Wrath style where like the bank shows up with a tractor and they like demo your house?
It's not that dramatic anymore, thank goodness.
No.
There are government programs that can subsidize that, crop insurance, that help in those scenarios.
Gotcha. So essentially, if something terrible happens, say drought or otherwise, some disaster, you can get paid out from the insurance carrier.
Yes. Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it still wouldn't be like the same income that would have been produced had your crop thrived, but there are some safety nets there.
God, what a risk. Now, when wheat is subsidized to some degree by the United States government, correct?
Not really.
Okay.
Wheat farmers, well, what do you mean by subsidized?
Okay.
I guess I should ask
Here's what I'm trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There is a criticism of, for instance, sugar beets. In that sugar beets and other crops are, not all other crops, but some other crops are subsidized by the government. People are like, we shouldn't be subsidizing this crop. And, again, people can think whatever they want. It's none of my affair. But the retort that I heard very, very quickly was, yeah, look, we cannot do that. We can, as a government and as a people, decide we're not going to offer some kind of subsidy or support to this agriculture. But what happens then as we do that is that other countries, in an attempt to take over our markets, our consumer markets, what they do is they say, it's like Brazil, and no shade on Brazil. I don't know if they actually do this, but like say Brazil has, sugar products and they're like, okay, we can make the sugar crystal, be it cane or beet sugar, whatever it is. And we just do it this way. And by the way, the sugar farmers in Idaho, like nobody's got their back. So let's do this for 2 or 3 years. Let's like massively subsidize our sugar production industry. Let's drop the price on it. That will kill all the sugar farmers in Idaho because they're like, hey, we can't make a profit with this. And then what we'll do in Brazil, because we're like the evil Brazil sugar people, we're like, we'll subsidize it for 2 or 3 years, kill that market. We'll offer our sugar at this discount. We'll take over that market because everybody will be consuming from us. And then we can tighten the screws, ratchet up our pricing because we've destroyed that market. That's something that, again, the argument for subsidies is if you don't subsidize the sugar beets, then they become the sugar beet industry or sugar industry or whatever product you're engaging in. It becomes vulnerable to those types of market manipulation. And if that happens, then we lose all of our small farms. At most, we'd have like 2 or 3 very large corporate producers that would be able to weather the storm or perhaps combat the market manipulation that international players are engaging in. And like, fine, maybe we would still maintain some type of market, but it would be terrible for all small farmers and essentially the market supply in the United States. Like, am I accurate kind of on the representation of that a little bit?
Yes,
Okay.
you are. We are dealing with that right now and have been for the past couple of years.
Okay. This is what I wanted to know.
Because U.S. wheat is very high quality, and there are a lot of countries who will pay a premium for that. Taiwan, for example, they will pay the premium for the quality. There are other countries, and wheat provides 20% of the calories worldwide. So it's kind of like the oldest staple, right? Sure. There are other countries where they just need calories. They just need food. So they are not worried about the quality of the wheat and the baking quality of the wheat. They just need calories to feed their populations.
What countries would those be?
Africa.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So they're like, look, calories, I don't care how you get it
Yes.
to us. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how fluffy it is. Get us calories.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So Russia and Ukraine, countries in the Black Sea region, Russia specifically produces a lot of wheat, but it's not high quality. And they manipulate the markets, so it drives down the overall market, basic supply and demand, right? They manipulate the market by driving down the prices so that wheat farmers in Idaho or in the United States can't break even with the current price of wheat. And so...
But that's for lower quality wheat, right? Like they're essentially okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
Because by doing that, you're flooding the market, and it doesn't matter. It's going to drive down.
So Taiwan doesn't care. They're like, hey man, we can get the crappy Russian wheat. We can't afford your high quality wheat in Idaho.
No, Taiwan will always take quality over price. But
people in Africa are like, hey man, wheat is wheat to me. It doesn't matter. And you're like, but we look at this. It's so great. They're like, we don't care.
Right.
We don't care. I have Vladimir over here who has, more. Okay, great.
Right. Exactly. And so Russia manipulates the markets, drives down prices for Idaho wheat farmers. They can't break even. And then Russia gets the sales of wheat too, because it's so much cheaper, and it's going to countries with very high populations and population booms.
So on the high end, on the really high end product, then you have some high end customers like Taiwan, and you have high end producers, but not everybody is producing the wheat that you're talking about that Taiwan wants, and Taiwan can only consume so much of it. So there are other forms of wheat that are grown in Idaho that then suffer considerably when Russia manipulates the market.
Yeah.
So how does the U.S. deal with that? Like, what do we do?
It's always a struggle. I mean, again, there are crop insurance and safety nets, things like that from the government, but it's not subsidized as heavily as other crops are. So it's always a risk, and farmers take the risk and hope for the best and produce what they know they need to produce, because that's what our customers want and demand.
Gotcha. And I know this is kind of higher level economics, but were the tariffs a huge problem for the wheat farmers? I know some industries like lamb. This was a very tricky one. Okay. Because I had Brett Wilder here and really enjoy him. And it was tricky because he's like, look, here's the deal. I produce lamb like 20 miles away. And it's great lamb. And by the way, it is great. I've had some. It's fantastic. And he said, look, I'm not upset that things got more expensive for New Zealand and Australia, because I produce lamb and I would like you to buy my lamb from Idaho, Boise River lamb. It's fantastic. He said, but the problem is, even though that puts pressure on the price point so that Australia and New Zealand lamb may theoretically get priced out or be a more difficult economic option, you also have the risk that just fewer people will eat lamb. Because if they're like, okay, a rack of lamb is $15 and it was from Australia and New Zealand, and now it's $18, but it's from Boise, you may have more people just saying, all right, well, I'm not going to get the rack of lamb because my price point was like $16 or $15 and I can't go above that. So you have people that the location is not a consideration. It's the economic factor that's a consideration. Mm-hmm. That's a complex equation. But going further than that, Brett doesn't have a lot of inputs, right? When he's growing lamb, he has his lamb and he has feed. But aside from that, he's like, I don't have crazy inputs. When you start dealing with winemakers or, vineyards and stuff, they're like, well, we buy French oak barrels, like we buy corks, we buy all of these other inputs that the tariffs actually have affected our bottom line because we have to import these things because we can't produce them ourselves, right? So you have a myriad of question marks and a myriad of problems that, for me, I'm like, oh, you grew grapes here. Like that shouldn't be a problem at all. I'm like, well, hang on a second. How have they affected the wheat growers? Like, is there like fertilizers and inputs of that nature that you guys have had to spend a lot more on? Are there other inputs that people don't consider?
Yes, the inputs really are where the tariffs have hit the most. So we had existing bilateral trade agreements with different countries that when the Trump administration adjusted all of the tariff rates
it was like spring or something.
Just this year, wheat was exempt from a lot of those because of existing trade agreements that the United States had with other countries. So that was great. The inputs, on the other hand, are definitely affected by tariffs and definitely affected by just like world events. So inputs spiked in 2022 because a lot of the ingredients, I guess, the components of those fertilizers come from Ukraine. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, we didn't have a way to get those products to the United States as well. COVID, so we were coming off of COVID, which already created supply chain and shipping issues, right? And then that happened. And so input prices went through the roof for wheat farmers in general. They're starting to come down now, but they're still expensive. And that's kind of, if you're a dairy producer, for example, and you can sell your milk at $6 a gallon instead of $2 a gallon, and people will buy it because they need milk.
Sure.
You're not going to bring that price down.
Right.
Back down to $2 a gallon, right?
Right.
And it's
whatever
the same.
The market's going to bear.
No shade on dairy again.
Yeah, sure. But by the way, they can't do that because they're price takers. They're not price makers.
Well, yes, right.
Like,
exactly.
They take whatever the price is at the exchange.
Right. Wheat farmers are as well price takers, not price makers. So they don't get to adjust what they're selling their wheat for based on their input costs. So it's just another one of those really big risks that farmers take.
What a wild time.
Absolutely.
I was at a sugar beet farm the other day during harvest and had a great time there. And I wasn't there for that long because like they're in the middle of it. I got to one of the harvesters. And I was like, wow, this is cool. But just to see like the number of people, engaged in this and the difficulty with producing the crop and then harvesting and then selling it. And, I was sitting in the harvest. I don't even know what the hell the thing's called, but it was a 6-row. It wasn't a 12-row. He'd prefer to run a 12-row, but he can't. The harvesting thing doesn't fold, so he can't drive it down the street. So he's like, I got to run a 6-row. I'm like, cool, bro, 6-row. Like I had a 7 once. Like I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's wild to be with somebody in the midst of an engagement, economic engagement where they're like, yeah, we're losing money right now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, the markets have done this. They told me, they're like, well, the problem is obviously that, everybody, this was a great year for sugar beets. So like everybody did well on sugar beets, but that means everyone did well, which means like nationally we produced the most sugar we've ever produced ever, which means the price has bottomed out. He's like, so we're losing money right now harvesting this, but the only answer is to like harvest it so we don't take as big of a loss. And to know that, and here you're with a dude in like a wildly expensive contraption, I'm sure, with like a semi truck next to him collecting all the sugar beets, going to this other place, is like, and you're losing money. And you just hope that, you've cross-collateralized and essentially distributed your risk across other crops and other engagements. But it's like, nope, this one's a huge loser this year. But like the other two might be winners, so I might still come out ahead. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have the guts for this industry.
No, I don't either. No, but that similar with wheat, we had some really good bumper crop years and it drove the price down. So now we have a lot of wheat in storage because farmers are waiting until the price goes back up before they sell their wheat so that they can actually make a profit on it, make money on it. So
how long can they store the wheat?
Oh, you can store wheat for decades.
So there are like silos out there that are just like,
No,
hanging in there.
no.
I am hanging in there.
No, that's
from the 90s.
That's extreme. But if you could
like a couple years,
store,
2-3 years or whatever it might be. I had no idea you could store wheat for that long. So there are really people there. It's like, okay, in 2023, we had a great crop, but the value was really low, right? Because everybody did really well. So we're storing that. I took a loss on that essentially, and I'm storing that, and then I'll be made whole in like 2027 or something.
Yeah.
It's too much, man.
Or
like, the complexity of these markets is wild.
It is so complex. And a gamble, right? In a lot of cases. So there's also, you hold on to it because you think, well, around the corner, the price has to go up. It can't go down. And so they hold on to it, but then eventually they harvest again. And so they have to sell their wheat so they have somewhere to put this year's crop. And so sometimes that's profitable and a lot of times it's not. And it's just all part of the game.
It's all part of the game. It's no problem, man. I just trained the tigers. Yeah, it's too much, man. It's like genuinely, I went up to Winchester this spring, early summer, and saw all the canola fields on the way up. They're beautiful. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is the wildest thing. But the first thing I noticed was like, where are all like the center pivots? Like, where is this stuff? And I ended up talking to somebody about it, and he's like, yeah, no, dry land farming. And then he was chatting with somebody else saying that they were, one of the biggest problems is you get like an early frost, and that makes all the canola go to seed instead of growing. I was like, what? Like, just the idea that you could wake up one morning and it could have just been cold. Like, I wake up one morning, I had to like scrape the ice off my front windshield this morning. I'm like, oh, we're back there. But realizing that if that happened a week too soon or a week too late, my livelihood would have gone kaput. Like, that's, again, I know I keep saying it, but it's like, for me as somebody who's never been engaged in agriculture, it's wild, man. That's like too much to conceptualize that you'd have that kind of problem.
Or a hailstorm and obviously those are things that you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah, man. That's a lot. Listen, we've talked about a lot of different things. Really, obviously, focus on international exchanges. Is there anything we're missing here?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just, 50 to 60%, depending on the year, of Idaho's wheat crop is exported. And as we talk about markets, sometimes farmers in southern Idaho, because southern Idaho wheat mostly stays domestic, or is exported to Mexico, which Mexico is our biggest market. Mexico, Philippines, Taiwan, Japan. But most of the wheat that goes to the Pacific Rim, that goes to Asian countries, comes out of northern Idaho. And so one of the questions that I get a lot is, okay, so I'm a farmer in southern Idaho. How is this helping me? How does this Taiwan deal help me, a farmer in southern Idaho, when I grow hard red winter or whatever, and it's not going to Taiwan? And what we've just talked about with the markets really answers that question. The whole state is subject to supply and demand fundamentals, right? So anytime we sell wheat, whether it's overseas or here in the United States, the whole industry wins. Yeah,
and also, excuse me, you're dealing with different crops, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, so if somebody's like, hey man, how come, like, if somebody in southern Idaho is like, I sell the same kind of wheat, how come I'm not in on this? You're like, okay, yeah, that's a valid question. Be like, hey man, I don't sell the same thing. How come I'm not in on this? Like, the first part of your statement, that was it. Like, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but like, of course, like if you're not selling the same product and the end consumer, if it's Taiwan or some other, association or country is not interested, it's like, yeah, man, but they didn't want the wheat that you were growing. Is it possible that what's the advantage to growing the wheat that somebody in Southwest Idaho, like the hard red? Why wouldn't they just grow the like rare, fluffy white stuff?
It's growing conditions a lot of times,
Gotcha.
but also hard red winter wheat is the most in demand wheat.
Oh,
So you'll always have a market for hard red winter.
gotcha. So you have more consistency with demand, but you may not get the high end pricing later
But you also, a lot of times they contract ahead of time with mills. So for example, if you grow hard red winter, this is how much we'll pay you for it because we need it to make flour tortillas.
Sure.
Or
Something of that nature.
Yeah, whatever.
Gotcha. Dude, they came out, Trader Joe's had the half corn, half flour, like the soft corn tortillas. I'm a huge fan. I love corn tortillas. I was like, as a kid, obviously, I really enjoyed, flour tortillas. But as an adult, it's like the corn. But obviously, like the corn always breaks. And then they came out with these soft corn tortillas that were like, half and half. They were so good.
And they don't split down the middle?
They don't split like
that's
that.
Amazing.
Like and again, they have like they're more rigid than the classic, flour tortilla that you can fold into origami, no problem. But no, they're not. You don't have to like heat them up just right. But yeah, it's a good time.
That's the gluten. That's the gluten from the wheat that does that.
Oh, that makes it like elastic? Oh my gosh. I'm going to get back on the gluten train here soon. I'm very excited. I'm going to eat all of the pizza. All the pizza. And beer. Oh my God. I'm going to have another beer, like a real beer. It's going to be incredible. Anyway, Britany, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you as always. I love learning about the crops of Idaho. So thanks for doing what you do for the wheat farmers. And we'll do it again.
Yeah. All right. Looking forward to it.